What's up, everybody? It's been about 6 months since I've done a video update, but to celebrate 1,000 followers and my personal shift in bias, I wanted to do an update and share with you some thoughts. So first of all, let's just talk about the basis of correctional trading, corrective trading for me. I'm an Elliott wave trader by nature. But I simplify it into impulse, correction, and after three waves of correction, I look to purchase, to buy. And I'm either looking for another impulse after that, or that move, that 3 waves of correction is simply the first wave of 3 larger waves. So this theory, as simplified like that, is really major thanks to friends call me AP for helping simplify my trading in that manner. And if we go to a higher time frame here, the idea is that we have 1, 2, 3 corrective waves. You buy at the bottom of it. When the trend line breaks here, you buy in, and you're either looking for a new impulse or you're looking for another corrective wave. In my opinion, this is proven to be another corrective wave. I confirm this with 3-day MACD flipping red, as well as the 1 week MACD flipping red. The weekly MACD flipped red here, meaning this was an A wave, and we're in some kind of massive B wave here before another C wave to the downside. So I've already published a couple variations of how that could play out. I have a bias, which I'll share with you in this video, but there's alternates that could play out as well that I haven't even shared yet. So here we have, to me, 3 clear waves with perfect MACD subdivision on a daily basis, on the daily time frame. So we had a 3-wave A coming down, ABC, A, B, C for B, and C is either complete, coming in somewhere, something like that. Now I know that this second wave, we typically expect it to take longer than the first wave of a correction. We expect it to take the second wave to be the longest in terms of time of a correction, whether it's a B or an X. I know in my mind that this is the correct subdivision of this move because we have an A confirmed with a blue MACD flip, positive MACD flip. We have a B that turned it red, and we have a C completed with the MACD flip. Now you can recognize that the MACD flips can be a little delayed sometimes. They don't happen before the peak at all times. This one happened, I think, like the next candle or the 2 candles later after the peak. That does not discourage me from the count in any way, shape, or form. So there's 2 options. It's either an A, B, C, or it could be a W, same wave, W, X, Y. What's the difference between these 2 options? If this is a C wave, we expect it to be 1 impulse. If it is a Y wave, we expect it to be 3 waves, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So let me share with you why I don't believe this is a Y wave. If this is a Y wave, then we've completed only an A wave here. A. We would be starting the B wave and then finishing the C with the C wave. I just told you that the second wave should take the longest. Our A wave took 31 days. Second wave, let's say it just takes 45 days. And then C will take at least 31-ish days as well. Right around 30 days. So if this is the scenario, then you're talking about completing the Y wave in February of next year. And this is an optimistic timeline for this Y wave to complete. Our W took 21 days. Our X took 100 days. 101, I think it actually was. Now you tell me our Y wave is going to take 108 days. For me, this doesn't add up. Why would Y take longer than our second wave? The third wave should not take longer than our second wave. So I'm not a fan of this. Doesn't mean that it can't happen, but it does not seem likely to me. The more likely scenario for me is that we are either completing a C wave impulse or we've already completed C. I don't really get too caught up in counting waves, counting the 5 waves for C. How I determine the end of a wave is I look at the trend line from that wave. Once we break out of that trend line, the wave is probably complete. So as you can see, we've pretty clearly broken out of this downtrend. I can go to other exchanges. You can see this downtrend is broken on most of them. With these things in mind, I think our C is done. I think it's complete here. I think this is the most likely scenario right now that our C was complete right here. If you look at daily MACD, we have massive bullish divergence between these waves. Not so much between this low, but between this low and this low here, we have massive bullish divergence. If you look at RSI, we have the same peaks have bullish divergence on the daily. And even 3-day, I believe, had some bullish divergence. Let's take a look at it. Right here. And that's between the two final peaks, the two final lows here and here. Not so much on RSI, a little bit, a tiny bit, but pretty weak. So there's some early confirmations that this wave down could be complete. For final confirmations, we would have to break the trend line of this whole move. But that would be way too late. I mean, we're talking about $1,500 plus from here. So we want to be in before that. Also, if MACD flips into the green, into the blue, it's blue on my chart, then that would complete a count of a three-wave move. But we're still several days from that as well. By this system, until MACD is in the red, in the blue, shorts have to be the priority. We have to continue to consider the bearish option. But MACD is a lagging indicator, just like pretty much anything out there. There's not really very many predictive indicators. So with MACD being a lagging indicator, we do need to keep the idea in mind that we could be complete with this move. The lower time frames are so choppy that there's not really any solid entries in here. Let's just say you were to enter long right now. The true invalidation would be this low. It's a 13% stop loss. I typically try to avoid stop losses of that nature. My target, you could reach 10.5, maybe even a little higher. You're looking at 2.8 to 1. Could you put your stop here? Sure. Gives you 6.7 to 1. Better risk to reward. Could this be hunted? This could very easily be hunted before you continue up. We could very easily be doing something like this, where this is our first wave down. We're in some kind of second wave, and we have a third wave of correction. We need to maintain this low right here. We need to stay above this low in order for this to be valid. But this could be our first impulse with a wave up after this. So that would hunt this stop loss if you were to do something like that. So I'm not saying that trading is going to be easy. I'm just sharing with you my idea that it's possibly, very likely, that this move is complete. Let's talk about a target on this move. So over here, we had an A, B, C. This first wave, this first subwave, after this A wave, retraced past the 625, in between the 625 and 75. Now, our B wave would be behind this entire piece here. So we can take the fib retracement of this entire piece right in here. I don't think that got the bottom somehow. Is it locked? So if we retrace to the same level, you'd be looking at 11.6, somewhere in there. possibly higher. I also like to look at the volume profile. Let's look at the volume profile of this entire piece. Really, I just want the corrective piece, which I'm suggesting starts at the top here. So let's turn on VPVR. We have a point of control here, 63.66, which we were very close to testing. We have some volume here, which we're currently sitting right below. We have volume here, here, and kind of here. Down in here as well. So personally, I mark these out. If we're going to reach higher, let me mark this bar 1 lower here. I want to catch this bar right here. So I'm going to take this guy off. But these are the relative levels I'm watching. And you can see each gray box I've marked lines up with these volume, high volume nodes. So, high time frame. What does this mean? Let me make this a lower degree, so it's a little easier to see here. I'm going to take this off, and I'm going to go ahead and take this off as well. I'm suggesting that this is all an A wave. And here on the 3-day, you can see why I say that. Remember, my color, my bar color is based on the MACD status. It was blue for this entire impulse. It flipped red behind this impulse. We know that it's now correcting this impulse because it flipped to red. And we know that it's the first degree, the first wave of correction, because it only flipped red one time. It hasn't flipped red, blue, etc. So I believe we will put in another B wave, and I believe we'll put in a final C wave down before we see a move up similar to this degree. It does not have to be this size, but similar degree. We absolutely could test around 18,000. However, I just told you the second degree of correction, the second wave of a correction, should take longer than the first wave. So if we look at a fib with time on it, measuring the length of the A wave in time, and starting it from the start of the B wave, we would then expect that B wave to take at least 1.5 times as long as the A wave. Likely 2 to 3 times as long. But let's just assume this for now. And then if we do the same thing, starting taking the time measurement of A from the end of B, then C could take the same amount of time as A. Based on these conservative time measurements, we're looking at parabolic December of next year. We could very well take longer than that. Very, very easily take longer than that. So what could this look like? For me, I've suggested that it's going to turn into a contracting flat. Let me grab that top box. My time is not working out here. That would actually make C faster than A, which would make sense. That'd be okay. So we would have a massive flat in the middle here. And this would be a flat. So this is just a quick sketch of it. It's really not my best. I've already pinned this post on my profile, so check that out. But the general idea is there. The issue then becomes that this entire thing here would still need a third wave. Something like so. Before we have a move up of this degree. That would give us 1, 2, 3 waves of correction before parabolic move. That would keep us under the 20,000 top and above the 3,000 low. I personally find this pretty likely. Some variation of this, not necessarily these subwaves. Let's take some of this off and show you how else it could unfold. I'll leave that actually. I drew a down-sloping alternative. Here it is. Oops, wrong one. So this would have us testing the previous low before moving up. A, B, C. Like this. And remember, that's just our B wave. So we would still have another move down after that. A higher degree move down comparable to this A wave. A, B, C. Now where that ends, is that going to come to 1,000? Honestly, probably not. I personally believe that we will see price contracting over the next few years. I don't think you'll see a lot of expansion of this size. I think we'll see it settling in, coming into a tighter range before exploding upwards. So these C's, I don't believe they'll be as large as these A waves were. I think they will be contracted compared to those. But this move in the center here, let me get rid of these points of control here. Cluttering up the chart. This correction here is pretty much an identical replica of what happened in here. We had 3 waves down, large B wave, and then a C wave down. Zooming out, we've got 3 waves down, large B wave, and then a C wave down. In this internal B wave, we have the A making the high, the B reaching a low, and then C not reaching the high of that A. Same thing here. It's all very possible. So if we go to a weekly, what we would then see this would flip blue. This would flip blue. This would flip red. This would flip red on weekly MACD. This red flip could signify the end of a larger correction. So this is a very possible alternative to the contracting flat that I'm suggesting. Regardless, in here we would have a lot of sideways, a ton of sideways at some point in this. We had a lot of sideways in this move here. This was some kind of B wave through here. You saw how much sideways we had through here. We should expect even more sideways in this B of B of B of B. We have several degrees of B waves going on, so things are going to get choppy. They're going to get constricted and sideways and harder to trade, to be honest, to be frank. So one thing to keep in mind, you look at ETH, when Bitcoin was going sideways through here, ETH made a much easier to trade pattern. It's possible that again, while Bitcoin's going sideways through here, ETH makes something that's a little easier to trade. Doesn't have to, but it is quite possible that it does. It doesn't work too well, huh? Now this is probably a corrective move here for ETH. We're calling this an impulse. This doesn't really look impulsive compared to this, but this does look impulsive in relation to this. So if this is just the first move with the same price action going on inside it, then it could be pretty ugly. You may not want to trade ETH if this is the case. I've solely focused on Bitcoin, so I'm not sure what the counts are in here. But if you look at ETH Bitcoin, it looks pretty solid. Had an impulsive move up here, breaking out of this long-term downtrend. Once we break out of that, you expect a retracement into it at least. Wrong tool. Well, you get the idea. We haven't even reached like the 50% retracement of this yet. So Ethereum, Bitcoin could see some pretty significant moves since we've already broken out of this downtrend. So that may not be a bad one to trade while Bitcoin continues to contract. If we look at this downtrend here, we are really close to breaking out of that. Very, very close. It's a little tougher to look at it in linear. I'd probably draw it like this, which we've already broken out of. So that could suggest we're not only retracing this, or we're retracing this entire piece. This was all one piece. If we go to weekly, it should have flipped a long time ago. So you got to move up here, weekly flipped. That means that this is confirmed as a move up. And then behind it, you've got an A. B really hasn't flipped, so perhaps we're actually still putting in some kind of B wave. This is pretty extreme. Pardon me. I'm spitballing here. But based solely on MACD subdivision, I can see something like this before continuation to the downside of an A, B, C. Now, generally, I expect Bitcoin pairs to move correctively. You have to catch the impulses of high degree corrections. You can't expect Bitcoin to move to gain against USD and Ethereum to gain against USD, but also have Ethereum move impulsively against Bitcoin. So any pairings against Bitcoin, I expect to have very high degree corrective structures. That's one of the reasons that I don't enjoy trading them. Okay, I think I talked about all this. The one thing I didn't talk about was if Bitcoin is to continue down. So let's flip to the daily. If this is some kind of four wave, I would think that the top is in here. I don't feel like we can come up to 8,200, 8,300 range and still be a 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just too steep and too long. Time is the main reason that I think this is complete. We've been going sideways too long without continuing the impulse to the downside. Could we still make one more low here in a 5-wave? Yes. The longer we stay up here, the less likely I think that is. The more likely I think it is that we've completed this move down. So how could it play out? It's just becoming unclear for me. This is why I flipped my bias. It's becoming quite unclear. My original expectation was something like this. A, B, C, and most likely we would truncate the C. For a little bit, I flipped to this. Oh, well, this was probably our contracting flat, and it happened quicker than expected. No, I don't think so. Not with this move up behind it. If this is the corrective pattern, man, it's taking forever. And we would be well above this trend line. So this trend line can be drawn differently. If you're drawing it from Bitstamp, the high was like 10,350 or something. Let's just draw it here. And I'm catching this point here. We're still breaking out of it there. It's better, but we're still breaking out of it. I'm not seeing it as likely anymore. Possible, less likely. The more I talk about it, the more I find it likely that the bottom is in for now. That we have a target somewhere around 11,000 to 11,600. Time-wise, it could take a while. It's not going to get in a rush, but it also doesn't have to take too long. A couple weeks from where we are now. This time length was 21 days, I think we said. 20 days and 20 hours. We're already 12 days into it. It's very possible for this to take a month to reach the high in V&A. Oops. We would see something pretty massive in here at some point. All right, guys, I think that's everything I've got. I've already streamed way longer than I intended to. I've already not streamed, but recorded. I usually ramble on. I'm out of practice. So there's that. If you have any questions or thoughts on the account, let me know. Hit me up. Leave a comment. Let's chat about it.